Hi, I'm Jon Peters, and today I'm going to build a scale model for a chair rail system. What I'm talking about is it's a chair rail with the flat panels underneath. And the reason why I'm going to build a model is it will help to illustrate to the client the design that I've come up with, and it will also help me create a material and a cut list. So I'm going to bring the camera closer and show you the drawing, and then we'll start to build the model. This is basically what we're going to build. This is the chair rail, and the space between the chair rail and the baseboard I'm going to fill with a flat panel system. And we'll also discuss the casing, because all of the trim will dead into the casing. This is a very important part of the trim's design. Now when I build the model, I'll build it in the same sequence that I would use as if I were building or installing the trim on the job site. So the very first piece of molding that I would install would be the casing, and in this case I've decided to use what's referred to as a Windsor casing. The Windsor casing measures about 1.16 inches deep, and you can see that the top of my chair rail is a little bit heavier. This is 1 3/8 inches, and I really don't like the way that looks. Now sometimes you'll see people will just cut that piece of molding or the top of the chair rail back on a 45-degree angle, and I don't like the way that looks either. So what I'm going to do is attach what's known as a backband, and this is a piece of 1.5 by 3/4 inch poplar, and that will be attached to the side of the casing, and that way when I attach the top of my chair rail, there's a nice little step down or a reveal. So the next step is to attach the backband to the casing. Now I'm ready to attach my baseboard. And when I put the material that I'm going to use to create the squares for my flat panels, I realized that I would like the baseboard to be a little bit heavier to create a reveal between the baseboard and the molding that creates the panels. So what I'm going to do is pat it out with a piece of 1/4 inch plywood, and that will give me a 1/4 inch reveal between my baseboard molding and my flat panels. So I decided that this right angle here at the top of the baseboard is a little hard. So what I'm going to do is soften it up with my router. I'll put a round over bit in my router and run it over the top of the baseboard. Well, now that I have my baseboard attached and my backband and my casing, I'm ready to build the squares that will make up the flat panel system. And you'll see that I've changed material. I'm now using MDF, and that stands for medium density fiberboard. It's a really great material and it paints really nicely. I like to use it on the panels. I wouldn't use it on the backband or the baseboard because it doesn't hold up as well. It's just not as strong as wood. And you have a lot of traffic on your baseboard moldings and on the edges of your backband. So let's start building the inside. Well, now I'm ready to start building the squares that will create the flat panel system. And the first thing that I like to do is attach a piece of molding directly on top of the baseboard. And once I have that piece of molding attached, then I start to attach what I call the legs. And now you can see the square panels starting to form. Now the measurement of this piece of material here is 3/4 inch deep by 2.5 wide, and the legs, what I'm calling the legs, are 2.25 wide by 3/4 inch deep, and all this material is cut out of a standard 4x8 sheet of MDF. Well, now I'm going to start attaching what I refer to as the legs. And again, this is 2.25 wide by 3/4 inch deep MDF. And chances are you're not going to find a stud when you go to attach this piece of material or this part of the design because you know, your studs are buried in the wall every 16 inches and these aren't going to line up every 16 inches. So what I like to do is put a little glue on the back of the piece of material that I'm attaching to the wall, and then I take my nail gun and nail it at an angle and sort of pinch it. So I'll put a nail in this way and a nail in this way. And when the glue sets up, it's not going to go anywhere. So that's just something to think about. Well, now you can see it's starting to take shape, and once I attach this piece, you've got your square here. And this piece again is 2.5 inches wide, it's 3/4 inch deep MDF. And then after this piece is attached, the top of the chair rail is attached. And as I put this piece here, I'm thinking that it's also a little square, a little heavy. So what I'm going to do is round over the bottom and the top, just like I did on the top of the baseboard. To soften up this piece of molding a little bit, I'm going to use the same router and the same router bit and even the same depth as I did on the baseboard molding, because I just want to take a little bit off just to soften it up a bit. Okay, well that looks really nice. It's kind of amazing the difference of just taking off just that little round over makes a big difference sometimes. Now I'm going to attach a small piece of 1/4 round. This is 1/2 inch 1/4 round, and I'm going to put it right underneath the top of the chair rail. Alright, well now you can see it's really starting to take shape. I've got the top of the chair rail on, I've got all of my spaces defined, and the next step is to fill those spaces, and in my case I'm using an 1/8 inch piece of plywood. Now you can use masonite also, and if you're going to use plywood, use a tight grained plywood like birch plywood, and that's what I'm using. So now what I'm going to do is attach the piece of plywood and then trim out the squares in the center with a piece of base cap molding. So if I were installing the panel and the molding now, I would put a little Elmer's wood glue on the sheetrock, put my panel in place, and then the molding or the trim would hold the panel while the glue sets up. Okay, well now that the panel's in place and I've cut all of my molding to length, all I need to do now is attach the molding with a nail gun. Now if I were building this on the wall, I would be using glue on the back of all of the molding. Okay, well that's about it. There's one more piece of molding that gets attached, and that's the shoe molding, but that gets attached long after the trim has been painted and the floors have been finished. It's really one of the last things that gets done when a house is being built, actually. And it just simply gets attached to the baseboard molding, and you can see how with this design it dead ends really nicely right into this back band here. Now if you think you want to build this, I'll put a picture of it up on my blog. Just go to jonpeters.com and you can click blog and search chair rail, and I'll write in the dimensions and the materials and the moldings that I used. I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.